Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. I'm sorry, I'm a bit bellowy. I have to wear a microphone today. My name is Associate Professor Christy DeSalis. I have been in the discipline of ICT and its many formations for about 20 years, doing a whole range of different kinds of ICT and technical and production kinds of roles. So I'm going to be taking you for Project, and Project is perhaps a little bit different than you have had experience with us before. In your other units, you've probably sort of sat where you are and we've been delivering information to you. Project is really quite different in so much as you have to take all of that knowledge now and you have to apply it in a real life context. So you'll be working with real clients on real problems just as we do as ICT professionals. So it's going to feel a little bit different to you, but that's actually going to be okay because I've done a basquillion of these and it's going to be okay. You're going to freak out by the end of these first 3 hours, I guarantee it. But over the next couple of weeks, I will hold your hand and we will get through this process together. So today is a long 3 hours, sadly, but there is quite a lot of stuff to get through before we actually get into doing Project proper. So we're going to try and cover off all of that today so you can get straight into Project. So you would have walked past the front entrance there and there are 3 documents. 2 of them relate to the projects that are going to be on offer today and one is your project nomination form. At 10 o'clock we're going to have all of the clients come in and they're going to give you a 2 to 3 minute pitch on their project. Then after all of those you're going to have a couple of minutes extra to talk to some of the ones that spike interest to you, and then at the end of that session they will leave and you will fill out that nomination form. So you don't have to worry about that now and you don't have to read through all the projects before then. There will be time as they arrive at 10. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through a little bit of administration just so you understand how the unit works and the most important things with regard to assessment and passing the unit. So we'll get straight into that. These slides and all of the information in it is contained in the unit outline and they are already available on the Milo site, which was open last week and you should have full access. So you don't need to desperately scribble all of this stuff down, it is already available to you online. So this is not just one unit, it's actually 2 units. So Project is run in both first semester and second semester. The codes are KIT 301 and KIT 302. You are currently only enrolled in 301. So 301 is the starting of a process by which you will identify the needs of a client and start to build some prototype solutions to them. Then in KIT 302, our second semester version, you will actually go into much more full-scale development so that at the end of second semester you will have a fully functional system that you can hand over to your client. It's an opportunity for you to consolidate all of the things that you have done before. So you've done programming, you might have done HCI, you might have done web development, you might have done app design, you would have definitely done professionalism, you would have done project management. All of those kinds of things actually now come into play in a practical sense. So what we expect to see in this unit is you pulling all of those skills back together and applying them as is needed for your very specific project context. It extends both the development and the professionalism. Now, there is huge amounts of data out there that suggests there aren't firstly enough ICT professionals to meet the demand that is worldwide for us, which is great. The problem, however, is that many people going through or having technical competence do not have professionalism competence as well. And so this is a technical unit in so much as you are developing something, but you are operating and learning, if you like, or perhaps even relearning some professional skills that are going to make you a good member of staff that somebody is likely, therefore, to employ. So this is both a technical and a professionalism unit, and you need to do well on both to get through this. It's really important for you to understand this is what's called a capstone unit, and a capstone unit basically means it's the peak of your degree. It's where everything kind of flows towards. And because it's that, we need to make sure that to get through this unit you are applying all of the skills and knowledge well that you have passed up to this point. You don't get to graduate with a Bachelor of ICT or your equivalent if you don't pass this unit. It's not just another unit. It's literally the signal post that you have to pass to get out of this degree and into industry. So it is different, and it is treated quite differently, and it's treated quite seriously. And so there are a number of hurdles to get through, both within each unit and more broadly as well. So firstly, you don't get your degree if you don't pass project, and you don't get into the second part of project unless you pass the first part. There is no guarantee you will be here in second semester if you do not do very well in first semester. And this is really important, because this is where we assess whether you have the capacity to go out and represent yourself as a professional in ICT. So please understand the seriousness of this unit. Other units are, of course, serious as well, but this one actually matters, because if you don't pass 301, it doesn't happen again until next year. You add 1 year to your degree. Okay? Any questions on that? Freaking you out already, aren't I? A little bit. It's going to be all right. I'm going to help you get through. You're going to do it in a project environment, because invariably when we go out into industry, we are always working projects. I've been doing this for a really, really long time, and the majority of my experiences and those of all my teams are surrounded by the context of a project, which basically means you have a task and you have a team, and you have a client and you have users, and all of these parts come together to bring about a particular outcome. And it's usually, in our case, a technological artifact of some sort. So you are going to be replicating the experiences that we actually live as ICT professionals in a safer environment, in a learning capacity, but it is going to be very similar in style and structure to what you are actually going to do when you go out into industry. That doesn't mean you have to work on projects. You can start your own business. You can work as an independent consultant. But if you go out and are hired by people, predominantly you're going to be in a project environment. So that's why we want you to get familiar with that. Why do we care about projects and clients? It's the money. They're the guys who are going to hire you. They have the money, they have the problem, they have the need. And they are going to come to you invariably and say, can you create me a thing? And that thing is going to help them in some way, and they are going to be willing to pay for it, but only if you have the capacity to work effectively within their boundaries. So, we're doing projects. Another question is, why am I taking you for project? I have been doing projects for about 1 million years, it feels like some days. A lot of time. This is what I do. I'm a professional project manager in a whole range of contexts. So, as I said, I'm an associate professor here at the university, and I've been doing these kinds of business units, games units, technical units, project units for a really, really long time. So I have a very strong experience in working with students through projects, but I also do this professionally as well. So I am the producer of Giant Margarita. Some of you have probably heard of Giant Margarita through Ian Lewis or Lindsay Wells. We run that together, which is an independent gaming studio, and I'm the producer of that, which means I manage all of our projects. I get our projects and then I manage them through to completion. And we develop things in an entertainment space in PS4, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, that kind of stuff. We're one of the only, well actually the only Tasmanian organisation right now to be able to do that. We travel all over the world a couple of times every year and showcase our entertainment games, which we actually bring students on that process with. Some of you probably went on the STEM trip last year or the year before. That's the kind of thing that we do as well. So my job is to manage all of those projects. What I also run is what's called the Games and Creative Research Group, Games and Creative Technologies Research Group here at UTAS. In our discipline, it's one of our biggest research groups, and I have about 10 people working with me. And what we do there is we create different kinds of gaming artifacts, but mostly what we would call serious games or games for change. And so these are the ones that aren't just for plain entertainment purposes. They can be used for health or for education or training, simulation, a whole range of different kinds of stuff. So we have a massive big team that works on identifying how people's brains respond to different technological artifacts. So again, all of the projects that we run there, I do those. I've also travelled to do project management. So this one here is an example of where I went up to Queensland a few years ago when they were amalgamating 3 different councils. So there were 3 sets of people, 3 sets of policies and processes, 3 sets of technology, and my job was to manage those into one consolidated environment. In a more creative space, we were the anchor tenant for Enterprise. If you haven't come across Enterprise, you absolutely should. Enterprise is running both in Hobart and in Launceston, so there's one on each end of the state. It's an innovation and entrepreneurial centre that we set up that is designed to promote technology-based innovation. So if you guys have any ideas, or you want to create your own business, or you want to work with people to figure out how to become a little bit more entrepreneurial in your own working life, there are lots and lots of people there that can help you in that process. And we, of course, are there also. I was the chair of the board of Creative Island. Now, Creative Island is basically a representation of all creatives in Tasmania, and that can be from artists, it can be from directors, anything. And with technology, a lot of the technologies that we actually create have some level of creativity in them, whether it is music, whether it's art, whether it's interface design, so on. So there's a very strong crossover between IT and creativity. And so my job in that is to kind of liaise with our industry as ICT professionals and creative industries and find collaborations there. And that's what you'll find is really useful in projects. At the moment, I'm on the board of Screen Tasmania, and traditionally they promote and support film and TV. We've opened that up to games now as well. And so what I do is oversee the funding for games-related projects that are going to be funded and supported by Tasmanian government. So again, projects left, right and centre in everything that I do. The latest project that I'm working on is bringing games into film. So creating games that are actually going to be shown in a film context and that support the marketing of said film afterwards. So I've done buckets and buckets of projects. So the reason I tell you this is two reasons. One is to make you feel a little bit calmer and safer, that you're going to be all right, because I know what I'm doing. And you're going to know what you're doing in just a short amount of time, probably not by today, and that's going to be all right. But in a little bit of time, you're going to be all right. And the second reason is because I am doing all of these things in addition to spending time with 150 of you and in Launceston and currently in China. So that means I'm not always sitting upstairs in my office if you drop by. So there are many ways to contact me, but just dropping by isn't always the best way because I'm doing all of these things. I also tell you these as an invitation. If there are any things that me or my team are working on that you would like to know more about or you would like to participate in, you're more than welcome to do that. We have lots of students that come and work with us as interns or do summer projects with us or are just generally interested in the kinds of things that we're doing. So if that strikes your fancy, feel free to come and have a chat. So as I said, I'm not always here, but when I am, this is how to get to me. So I am physically located in my office, which is 3 floors above us, level 4 of this building. So you just head up the lift or the stairs to the very top, and I am just around the corner. If you need to get me on phone or Skype, that is my number. Skype for Business. So you should all be able to download Skype for Business onto your personal machines and use that. It's just a voice over IP system. The limitation with that is if I have a meeting in my diary, because it's connected, it won't let you physically call through. It'll just go straight to Message Bank, which is a pain because I'm always in meetings, so I never get a phone call, which makes me very sad. So don't be surprised if you call and it goes straight to Message Bank. It's because of the system that runs it. If you actually need to see me virtually, Skype for Business has a facility for that, and also Skype if you want to go the old-fashioned way. And if you need to get to me, I'm Christy.salis. So that's my username, and you can get through to me for online meetings or that kind of stuff. Email is probably always the best because I can manage that wherever I am and I can respond in the middle of things. So if you need to get to me, it's christy.desalis@utas.edu.au. I also have consultation. So consultation is I have in lots of locations. In Hobart, it is going to be on Wednesdays and it's going to be from 1:30 to 3. So when I'm not having these kinds of things or management meetings with you, in the alternate weeks you can actually still come and see me. And so I'll have an hour and a half set aside for you guys just to show me things or to talk through issues or concerns or problems. Outside of that time, you'll actually have to just send me an email and we'll see if we can set up another time if that doesn't suit. All good? Got any questions? All good? All right. Yeah, hang it in there. All right, so let us get started with the project unit proper. You would have come across these things called intended learning objectives. I can't remember what they're called. Intended learning outcomes, objectives, stuff. I don't know. They are listed very clearly on your unit outline, and it is very important that you understand what they are. The university last year brought in a rule that it's not just enough to get, for example, a 45% in all of your stuff. You actually have to meet the individual learning outcomes before you can then get an overall assessed mark. If you fail one of these, you fail the whole unit. I really need you to understand that, because these are why people will fail project. And I'll explain them to you. So the first one is exhibit skills in the design and development of a technical system that supports the need of a client, applying a user-centred approach and adhering to professional standards and codes of conduct. There's a lot in that. Basically, that means, can you create a technical artefact, which you should be able to do because you're ICT students. So tick on that one, hooray. But then it says, supporting the needs of a client, which means it has to be what they need. Applying a user-centred approach, it must adhere to the requirements of the people, not the client, but the people who are going to be using it. So have you shown the capacity to understand the needs of users in your design? And adhering to professional standards and codes of conduct. So back in the day, you would have done 105 with Nicole probably. She would have introduced you to the ACS Code of Conduct and Professionalism Standards. We expect to see project management, technical capacity, user-centred design, code of conduct and professionalism, all done to be able to get that artefact. It is not that ILO. It is not enough in this unit to be great at just programming. If you cannot create an artefact that is useful for the user and meets the requirements of the client and does no harm, which is the core premise of our codes of conduct, you won't meet that ILO. Okay? There are going to be many chances for you to meet it. It's not just a once-off, so you'll have time to get good at this. The second one is exhibits evidence of the capacity to work as an effective and efficient member of the team. So, if you cannot work well as a member of a team, you will fail project. It does not matter how good you are at your particular skill set. Your skill set has to be broad and it has to be such that the rest of your team can benefit from it. If you cannot work in a team, you are not going to be okay in this unit. And again, there are going to be many times for you to improve on this. It's not just you're great or you're not. It's okay, not so good to start with perhaps. You're going to have opportunities for improvement. The third one is demonstrate a capacity to take initiative and direct your own self-learning. So this is you reflecting on your own learning throughout this unit, identifying what you need to do to change and putting those changes in place. And we expect to see continuous improvement through this whole unit. So those are the three things you have to be passing before you can pass project. There are going to be more and more details of these as it relates to each assignment, and I will continually talk to you about them as we meet. So there will be lots of chances for you to get really okay at these. Okay? But these are fundamental. If you fail these, it's not going to be okay for project. All right, let us talk a little bit about the structure of project proper. So project, as I said, is 2 units, 301, 302. And it is essentially represented as this diagram here. What we have, or what you might remember from Kit 203, project management, is something called a waterfall model. Does that sound familiar? Of design? Okay. Basic premise of a waterfall model is you start with a fully scoped and fully spec'd set of requirements and you potter through those and you do amazing things and you create an artefact and you test it at the end and you go, oh my God, it didn't work, disaster. That's waterfall. Waterfall is entirely impractical. It's not real in so much as the model, ironically, was designed by a guy who said, isn't this a nice linear model? Now nobody should ever use it. Because it is impractical, it doesn't make sense. How could you possibly wait till the end of a project to test anything? It's a disaster. Unfortunately, some people started to put that in a textbook as a really simplistic model, and then people started to teach it as how you do a project. It's absolutely not how you do a project. And so in project management, when you did that unit, you would have also then correspondingly come across something called an agile development cycle. Yes? Yay, you were there, hooray. Okay, so agile simply means iterative in our context. It means other things, but it means iterative in our context. And iteration is really important for us because clients don't know what they want to start with. They usually like to see something, they like to test something, and then they get better ideas or clarification on their particular need. And so it's not until they can see something and test something and you can prototype something that they actually can get some level of formation or clarity. And so that is actually what we do in business. We go with a preliminary set of requirements, we develop a spec, we develop a prototype, we test that prototype, we get feedback on that prototype, and we start over again. You are going to be doing exactly that. So in 301 and 302, there are going to be 3 agile cycles. So in semester 1, it is essentially the 2 top circles. What we're going to be doing is some initiation structures and some planning structures. So again, you would have done those in Kit 203. So if you can remember the project management life cycle, it starts with initiation, goes to planning, then blah, blah, blah. So we are going to have a light version of those front matter sections, which means we are going to learn as much about a project as we can right now. It's not everything we are going to know. It's what we need to know right now. So we're going to go through an initiation and a planning phase where we collect data on what the client thinks they want. Then we're going to go into our first agile loop, which means we are going to create in first semester a working prototype. It's not going to be beautiful. It's not going to be lovely. It's not going to be your best work. But what it is going to be is a representation of the interface and a representation of the functionality. And then your client is going to spend some time with you working through it. And so by the end of semester 1, you're going to have a working prototype and feedback on that prototype. And that will take you to about midway in that diagrammatic representation there. When we hit 302, we go straight back into those 2 cycles and we do 2 of those again. So based on the feedback we got at the end of semester 1, we go into another cycle of development, testing, feedback, and then do a 3rd. So by the time you get to the end of 2nd semester, you will have the shiniest, most beautiful, excellent project artifact that meets the requirements of your user and the requirements of your client. So you're not going to have to do this straight away. You're not going to have to be really great at this straight away. This is a learning process, and that's what Agile allows us to do. So there is development in both semesters. There is more of it in 2nd semester, but you will know a lot more about the requirements by that time. So this here is a representation of just this semester, so those first 2 components there. So in week 1, this is us now going through our original, our initiation document, which we'll talk through after the clients have come and gone. Then we go into what are called management meetings. And now management meetings are meetings that I have with your team only. So it's not this again. It's you come to my office as your small team, which will be allocated today, and then we talked about your particular project and your particular progress. It's kind of a milestone check-in, if you like. I will give you feedback on any deliverables that you have provided, and then we will talk about what the next steps are. So it is the way that you can think of me as the program director for all of these projects. You will be reporting to me in addition to reporting to your client. And that's what management meetings are, and they will start next week. They don't happen every week, however, because I actually want you to do some work. So some weeks there is just nothing scheduled except doing a thing. Getting together with your team, running a meeting, doing some dev, writing a document, whatever it might be. So the first set of stuff happens in weeks 1, 2, and 3, leading to the initiation document. So your first actual deliverable is due in week 3, the end of week 3. So that's really fast, and it's quite a comprehensive document, which we'll talk about in a bit. So it's something you have to get straight into really fast. The reason we're able to bring it that early is because there will be about 5 or 6 of you in your team. And that's probably about at least 50 to 60 hours per week that you as a team are putting into this. So it's not just you trying to create a report in 3 weeks, it's that many people over that many hours. So it's going to be all right. In week 4, I would have marked like a lunatic over the weekend and given you some feedback on your first document. We will go into another lecture like this and I'll introduce you to the next document, and then we'll run management meetings throughout the rest of the day and we will talk about your previous one and giving you some ideas for improvement over the next one. Then I leave you alone for a couple of weeks to do some work, and by which at the end of week 6 you create your second document, which is the end of our initiation and planning phase, so the end of that first one there. And that is a planning document which relates to scope, things like that. At that point, we're done in terms of identifying formal requirements as best we're able to at this stage, and we go straight into dev. So then we hit our agile cycle and we go straight into, as I said, development, testing, feedback as a cycle. That leads us to a software demonstration in week 10, and then a report on the cycle, which is called Agile Cycle 1, and then a final software development presentation to me. So there's quite a lot of stuff that's going to happen this semester, but it is paced so that a group of people can effectively get through them in time. Do you have any questions? Stunned silence. You can ask questions later if they come to you. It's about now that people start to freak out. And that's going to be all right. You're allowed to freak out. You've never done this before. It's new, it's fast, it's big. But you have everything that you already need. You have been trained well up to this point. You have technical skills, you have project management skills, you have professionalism skills. Those are what you need to do well in project. So I am not going to give you new information. I'm not going to sit here and lecture to you after today unless I'm introducing a new document or a new assessment. You have everything that you need. What your job now is to go back and reflect on all of that and apply it as is appropriate to your new context. So you need to go back and remember all of your programming. You need to go back to KIT 203, project management. You need to go back to your professionalism and code of conduct and make sure that you have some renewed familiarity with those kinds of things. It's not just enough to know them, because I'm going to expect to see them in the reports. So there will be templates that you have used in other units that I would expect you to use here. That kind of thing. And I'll explain those as I go. So you have everything you need, except, with the caveat of course, that every team is going to have a different project and a different client. And none of them are going to be ICT businesses, traditionally. They are businesses, just like you might find when you go out and work as a consultant or whatever. You will get a client from an area that you don't understand. It might be from sustainability, it might be from CSIRO, it might be from something else. They have a need and their need is couched in their own context. So what you are going to also have to do is get some level of familiarity of that context. Now that does not mean become a professional in that space. You absolutely don't need to do that. What you need to do is figure out how to learn enough about it to understand what you're being told by the client and by the users, how things generally work. So in addition to all of the stuff you already have, there is a need for you to learn a little bit about your client organisation, and that's going to be reflected in your first report. Like I said, you're going to be expected to bring your previous knowledge of all of these different kinds of areas that you have covered. Some of you have done web programming, some of you have done HCI, some of you have done mobile, all of you have probably done the foundation programming units. Every one of you must have done project management to be able to sit here today. So all of this kind of stuff is now what you have to start using. And because you were presented with best practice in those units, we expect that best practice to be reflected here. So I don't want just a general conversation about stuff. I want specific use of the things that you've learnt. But again, I'll guide you through that process. An important thing to check personally for you right now is should you be enrolled in this unit. I've gone through most of your transcripts already. That was my exciting job yesterday. Just to make sure that you should be here, and I think I've caught any of the anomaly problems, and some of you might have got an email just questioning your enrolment. If you haven't received that, you're probably okay, but just from a personal note, don't get stuck into project and then realise you've made a mistake. So basically what you need is you need to have passed Project Management Kit 203, and then you need to have done either 205 or 206. So that's the general prereq, but the additional one is, and you need to be in your last full year of your degree. So if you are just starting or only in second year and you've still got another full year to go, you will be removed. It is such a big unit. You need such foundation skills to be able to get through it. If you haven't done those yet, this is going to be really difficult for you. So just take a look at your own enrolment and just be comfortable with yourself that everything's okay for you, because it's going to get pretty hard pretty fast. So please take a look at your own enrolment. An obvious question is teams. Oh, don't we love teams? You are going to be working in a team. There is no choice. And that happens for a number of reasons. The most obvious one is when you go out into industry, you will be working in teams. And that is predominantly what we do as ICT professionals. Not always. We can work by ourselves. We can create our own businesses and do that kind of stuff. But at a graduate level, it is most common for you to go out and join other people to do these kinds of things. So we are going to replicate that experience for you. Who here loves working in teams? More than Launceston. They all like, God, oh God, no. But I notice the majority of you aren't raising your hand, and that's all right. That's all right. Because we're going to make it easier for you to work in a team, hopefully, than it has been before, and I'll explain that in a moment. But what we're looking for today in our allocations, which I will do tonight, is hopefully put you in a team of about 5, worst case 7, I guess, members of a team who will be working on the project with you. So you're not doing any of this by yourself. You're going to have people, and it's going to be all right. But you don't just get thrown in a team with random people. I spend a lot of time, like I said, going through all of your records and placing you in a team where your skills are useful to the context. So I won't put you with somebody you've said, can I please work with? I will try and avoid putting you in a team with somebody you say, please don't let me work with that person, which is what that form's for. But other than that, your results will dictate the team that you are in. Now, when you get into a team, you have personal accountability and responsibility. I absolutely need you to understand this. You will not be getting through 301 if you cannot work as an effective and active member of your team. You're not going to just sit there and hope somebody will tell you what to do. You're not going to come grumpy and just go, I hate project. That's not relevant to the actions that your team needs from you on that day. So you'll need to have a professional approach to the project and the other members of the team. You are working with a real business who is taking time to provide you with a learning experience. Lots of our clients come to us with ideas, but they can do without it. They come to us to give you an experience, to help you become more professional or to ease into professionalism. So please don't take that or them for granted. Act professionally. Learn how to operate in a business context. You need to do the tasks that are allocated to you by the team by the specified date. There is no need, there is no allowance for you creating things late and your team having to wait for you. Entirely unacceptable in project. You are accountable and responsible to them. You need to keep all of your appointments with your clients and producers, with me and with your other team members. So you will get lots of information and timing when these things are on, but not turning up is not okay. You need to contribute to team discussions and increase the intellectual property of your project. Just sitting there means you are of no use to your team, no use to moving anything forward. So these are things that will help you achieve ILO 2 and 3, and without them, you'll fail project. We will talk about these continually over the next few weeks, and you will get lots of feedback from me and your team throughout. Okay? Does anybody have any questions on that so far? No? All right, so as I said, you're going to be working in a team, and that is very reflective of what we do in industry, and we do that because not everybody has the same skills. Despite the fact that you're all probably studying BICT or something, some version of that, You all have different lives, you have different experiences, you have different cultural backgrounds, you have different work experiences, you have different whole range of things. And it is those things that make you an important contribution to the puzzle that is a project. If we all had exactly the same, there is no alternative perspective. We have people that aren't necessarily better at one thing than the other. So the reason we put project teams together, and I put the project teams together, is I don't actually care who you're friends with. It's irrelevant to project. What I do care about is what are your skill sets and how can they complement the other people, and how can that complementary skill team make a project work. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be putting your projects together. Now, in your team, which we will talk about later, you will be working across the whole project. So there isn't a place in project where you don't have something to contribute. You will be touching every part of this project. That said, however, we need people to take leadership roles. Now, the leadership role, as it does in project management, generally does not mean you are solely responsible for said task. It means you are the lead of the team working on said task. And so after you have allocated after you have received an email from me tonight, I will ask you to allocate your team roles preliminarily. You can change them later. But what I'm interested in is we need somebody who could take on a client liaison role. And this is the person who has strong professionalism and communication skills, because they're going to be interacting with the business person or the other stakeholders. They are going to be setting up the meetings, they're going to be allocating the times, they're going to be writing the agendas and the minutes, all of that kind of stuff. Other people will help through that process, but that is their responsibility to make sure that's moving forward. Similarly, we have a project manager, and this goes to somebody who has strong planning, organisation and people skills. Now, this is not the boss. There is no the boss in your team. There is a project manager, and their job is to make sure the whole project and all the parts are moving forward together at the same time, and to let me know of anything that is going wrong. So I will be corresponding quite heavily with the project manager as the program director, which is exactly what we do out in industry. So if somebody has those kind of leadership skills, that's a really good place for you to be, but it is not the boss, and you are not responsible for your other people. It's a kind of a leadership role, but not a management role. We will have a lead programmer. This person has very strong technical skills, so if you've only done one or so programming units, this is probably not you. This is the person who has done a number of programming units and is competent across all of them and has the capacity to bring other people together and manage the programming components of projects. We have the designer. Now, the lead designer is the person who can look across the whole project and make sure all of the technical components and design components are coming together. So that's the person who will wrangle any art, make sure all the programming is working, make sure the database fits with the interface stuff, all of that kind of stuff. So this is a more holistic role to make sure that all of the parts that are important to getting your artifact developed are actually moving together as well. Some projects will need an artist, so if they're gaming projects predominantly, they will have art in them. So if you have a skill set in art, please make sure that you document that on your form as well. And if that's required for the project, that will be a lead role as well. Somebody to get all of the artifacts together and make sure that they can be put into the code. Similarly, if it's not a game, you're all probably going to have some form of interface. So that's probably somebody who has really nice aesthetic skills in terms of understanding what users respond to, probably done HCI, that kind of stuff. And then we have lead documentation. Now, this is not the person who writes the document. Everybody writes the document. You have to all contribute. But this is the person who creates the templates, sets up the Google Doc or whatever you want to use, and make sure all the parts are there, leads the proofread, the edit, all of that kind of stuff. So we need strong written communication skills in that. But you will do all of these things, but somebody will lead, and you are going to probably lead something yourself. So you'll be a member and a leader at the same time. I always get the question, who's in my team? You don't know yet. What you are going to do after the clients come at 10, is I check my watch, is you will hear about, there's about 17 or 18 projects on offer. We will not fill those all because there's not enough of you to make that useful. So we are probably going to fill about 13 or 14. So you're going to listen to them. You're going to spend 5 or so minutes talking to some of your top priority ones. And then when they leave, you are going to fill out that form that was at the back of the room that identifies your top 5 preferences. That will come to me and I will put them all over the floor and I will then figure out who is best placed for what project based on your preference, but also your results. That's how your team will be allocated. Okay, do you have any questions on that? Yeah.
Regarding, so I'm doing app development this semester, does that exclude me from doing an app-based project?
Absolutely not. You get to choose any project that takes your fancy. That if you're doing app development in second semester, the majority of your development will happen in second semester, so that will probably be done in concert. What I will do is, if it's a development project, I will try to find somebody who has already done it as well as you doing it, so you're not left by yourself.
I wouldn't be like a huge detriment to my team.
I hope not. Yeah, no, you've got other things that you are skilled at already.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to keep the chatting down, please. All right, so this is really important. This relates specifically to passing ILO 2 and ILO 3, and I will talk about these till I am blue in the face and you are sick of me saying it, but you will not pass without these. So, this is also what is going to overcome that concept of what's called social loafing. Now, social loafing is why you all hate working in teams. It's because you get into a team and you might be super enthusiastic about it, and you have a team member who kind of just sits there and does nothing, and they get marks as well. That does not and cannot happen in project. It doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen because you are both a member of a team and an assessor of your teammates, as are they to you, as am I, as am your client. There are many ways that you will be assessed on these 2 major components. So, let's break them down a little. First, one of the things that you will be doing is assessing yourself. And you will be assessing yourself according to a template, which I'll show you probably after the clients come. But you will be reflecting on you and your own work and your own skills and your own contributions throughout that particular assignment period. So it's not just to the final document, it's over the period of time. So your first one will be weeks 1, 2 and 3. And there are a whole lot of questions we will pose to you about, did I work to my best ability? Did I ask questions when it was appropriate? Those kinds of things. And I'm also interested in finding out from you, what are your learning goals? Or actually, what are your learning plans more specifically? What are you going to learn in the next 3 weeks that is going to help your project team? Did you do that on time? Did you report to your team? That kind of stuff. So are you able to make a contribution is you effectively put it onto a template. Now that template, once it's filled out, goes to your team members. And they get to disagree or agree. So if you say, oh, God, I worked so hard and I did this and I led that and I did whatever, and the rest of the team going, oh, no, they didn't. That signals to me that there's a disconnect, and we will have conversations about said disconnect. Now, it's really important to understand, it's okay not to be okay at the start of project. It's okay not to be excellent at everything and not to get perfect scores from everybody. You do not fail because that happens. That simply signals to me work needs to be done, and we will figure out a plan for that work. If, however, that continues through this project, and if you're lucky to get into the next one into that, if I don't see continuous improvement, you will be out of this unit. Okay? It's okay to not be good at the start. So don't freak out, don't go, oh, everything was amazing and I did nothing wrong. It's perfectly okay for you to go, I missed a meeting because I had a disaster, or I didn't quite understand and this took me longer than I thought. That's exactly what happens in projects. Just got to articulate what your strategy and plan for making that not happen again actually is. The other thing that will happen is your team members will assess you. And your team members will assess what you have documented, and then they will also do their own assessment. Did you arrive, did you attend scheduled meetings? Did you arrive on time? Did you contribute to those meetings? Did you initiate ideas, carry your workload, create things in a timely fashion? Did you have a positive work attitude, or were you like super grumpy every time you turned up? Were you organised? Were you prepared to make decisions? And what was the level of quality of your work? And this is how people fail project. Those two things. I don't care how good you are at your individual skill set. You've got to be good as a member of a team. And there are these ways that we assess this. You assess yourself, and people assess you. And I assess you, and your client will assess you. Okay? Without all of this working well for you, project becomes a problem. Every time we have an assignment, we will do this, and I will work you through it. So you don't have to understand it fully right now. All right, in terms of workload, there are probably, let's assume, 5 or 6 people in each team. It might be slightly different to that. What we are expecting is that so this is no different in size to a normal unit. It's a 12.5%. And the normal for a 12.5% is a 10 to 12 hour working week. So that's what we expect for project as well. The benefit is there are 5 or 6 of you working 10 or so hours a week. So you're up to about 50 to 60 hours towards project each week by your team. So there is a lot of time to do all of the stuff that needs to be done, despite the fact that it looks pretty heavy by the end of today. So we're expecting to see that you spend about individually at least 8 hours a week, because that's what a requirement for a unit is. 20 is fairly nuts because it's only worth 12.5%. And if you've got any other things going on in your life, probably other units, maybe family, maybe jobs, you are taking time away from those. And project does not need you to do that. Project does not require full absorption of you as a human to get a project done. There are 5 or 6 of you to help. So please don't go crazy on your hours in project. Invariably, you just get burnt out, you get cranky, and everybody starts to hate you. So let's keep it manageable for you. The average for everybody is usually, in my experience, is coming out at about 10 to 12 hours. So if you're doing 3 hours a week, you're not cutting it, you're not contributing enough to your project or your team. If you're going 20, you're going way more. You might pull it back so other people have opportunity as well. So please don't go crazy on project. People get super excited. It's new, it's fuzzy, people like doing stuff. Please just keep it contained, because you have other things in your life which are equally important. Your grade is reflected of the quality that you put in, not the hours. So if you're really great at doing your task and you can do it in a shorter period of time, that's actually going to be all right, as long as you are still contributing the quality in the task that's required. So don't spend basquillions of hours and then hope that's going to get you through project. It won't. It's not about that. It's about the quality. Okay? In terms of assessment, we will talk about these in a lot of detail, and today, after our clients, we will talk about the first, a different thing. Software development, which is the actual artefact, because we already know you can do this, is worth 30% over semester 1. There are many ways we're going to do that, and it's demos, it's prototypes, it's testing, so on. Then 40% is for your teamwork. Like I said, this is no joke. If you cannot contribute actively and usefully to your team, you fail project. And then it's individual contributions, which is a 30%. So this is not scaled to be a technical unit. It is a professionalism and technical unit. It is preparing you for being appropriate to industry. Okay? And there are many, many ways throughout semester we're going to add to these numbers for you. So it's not just all or nothing. It's 3 or 4 times to get it right. Yeah?
Just with that, so say you're in a team of 5 people or something and you're working through this semester, and then at the end of it, one of your team members fail.
Yep.
So
yep.
It is basically a joined unit. You're meant to be doing the planning and everything this semester and then moving into actually creating it next semester. So how does that really work if someone is removed from your group because they fail, and then
Yep.
you're going into next semester and
You will not, invariably you won't be surprised as team members if a team member disappears.
Yep.
You will have seen it coming. You would have told me that it needs to happen. and you are effectively probably already working as a team of 4 by the time that happens. So people don't get turfed on borderline stuff, they get turfed for really poor behaviour or not improvement and things like that. So if that happens and a team of lesser numbers goes into second semester, we will rescope as necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, so your client will know that those kinds of things might happen. We will see it coming. And in our first session together in week 1 of semester 2, we will talk through the logistics of the new situation. So it's all entirely manageable. Yeah, it won't be a surprise to you probably. You would have seen it. Good question though. All right, so just correspondingly, the weeks that assessment happens. So initiation report is due in week 3, and that is mostly about those 2 major documents for the initiation stage of the project life cycle, which are the project brief and the business case. So you would have done those before. We're going to get you to do actual ones now. Week 6 is about scope, release and technical requests, so getting ready for the dev component. And then we go into the Agile Cycle 1, which is prototype development and reporting on the cycle. Then you have a couple of demonstrations, both in week 10 and 13. This is actively showing me the software, and we talk about interfaces and functionality and centered design and things like that. You will do 3 sets of peer and self-review. They will happen every time a major document comes in. And then your client and others will assess your professionalism. So like I said, you don't have to be great to start with. You have to be great at the end. Okay? Probably really good in the middle would be great. But it's going to be all right if you're not okay to start with. I will give you feedback, I will give you help, and you will improve. That's what we're aiming for. All right, how are we going for time? Oh, spectacular. All right, so like I said before, you would have picked up the project documents up the back. We're going to have, in about 10 minutes, our clients will pile in and you'll have lots of time to talk to them. There are different projects and they're designed because you have different interests. So some are games projects, some are business kind of projects, more traditional ones that you might find in a business. Some are offshore, some are onshore, some are web dev, some are apps, whole range of different kinds of things. What I want you to do is think about what you are interested in, what your skill set is. Now, I think most of you are allocated into a particular major, and from looking at your results, you're mostly kind of all in software development, although there might be some other things around. But if you're in a different major and you want to specialise in that, kind of figure out what projects best suit your particular skill set. You absolutely don't have to pick a project based on the major that you're in at all. You can choose any of these projects. But what I will try and do is make sure that, for example, a web project has people who have done web dev. If it's an app project, we're going to have people who've done apps, that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean everybody has to, but there are enough people to move that project together. Okay? Every project is different, so there is absolutely no need for you to compare your project or your progress against another team. So many things happen in projects and with clients that make every context entirely different. So if yours is running at a different pace or doing a different thing than another team, it doesn't matter. I'm the only one who needs to worry about those kinds of things in terms of progress and milestones. So yours is going to look and sound and be entirely different, but that's going to be completely fine. Okay? Hello, hello, come on down. Is there anybody else out there, Andrew? Can you ask, are you clients? Oh, they're everywhere. You found them all. That's amazing. That's awesome. Hey. Hello. Hi. Hello again. Sorry, that's the loudest I can be. We're going to have to finish this up now. So to the clients, thank you so very much for being so generous to offer a project and to give us some time today to showcase these and have a chat to our students. The process is they will provide me with some preference allocations today. I will allocate teams, and tonight I will send you an email letting you know if you have been selected as a client, and if not, and if so, what the next steps are, and if not, again, similarly, what the next steps for filling additional projects that might come up might be. So thank you so much for coming along. I really do appreciate your time and your projects. And you are now free to run away and do what you need. For the students, please take a seat. We will now talk about nasty stuff like assessments, and then you can go and have some lunch. Thank you so much for coming along. Cross fingers. I'll let you know today. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Sorry about being late this morning.
No, you send me those emails, you've got all that stuff. Yeah, that's fine.
Just traffic.
Recording it. That's no problem. Okay, take a seat, please. Awesome. So what I need from you by the time that you leave after this next session is your completed form. As I said to the clients this afternoon, I will allocate you into a project, and you'll find out later this afternoon, this evening, who your team is and what project you're in. So I need that before you leave. Please don't leave without giving it to me, or I will put you in a random project. Okay? I prefer that you gave some level of preference. All right. So what we're going to do now is talk through the first piece of major assessment, because it comes up quick and fast, and it's actually due in week 3. And it is called our initiation cycle, or our initiation report. So everything that you need to understand this is available to you already on Milo. So there is an assignment specification, there is an assignment marking sheet, there are assignment drop boxes, and probably other stuff which I've forgotten. Everything you need should be there. It assesses all 3 of the ILOs that we talked about earlier. So as I said, you'll remember there are many times to test your skills or prove your skills in this space. This is the first. So ILO 1, building an artefact, so on and so forth. ILO 2, capacity to work in a team. ILO 3, self-directed learning and contribution. This overall report constitutes 25% of your overall grade, so it is big. And normally we wouldn't do a 25% assignment due in week 3, but there are 5 or 6 of you in a team, and that makes this okay, which means you're going to get through it. But you do have to do some work. This report consists of a group report, which means it is the contribution of all of you, putting all of your insight and knowledge into a report, and that is marked as a group contribution. In addition to that, you'll do a self-assessment, which we talked about, and I'll show you in more detail, and you will also then correspondingly do a peer assessment. So ILO 1, 2 and 3 are drawn from those 3 components. So in terms of the specifications, again, fully documented on Milo, please take a look, read through this thoroughly before you start. It's a report that relates to the 2 core things that we would often do in this phase of a project management lifecycle quite broadly. There are many documents that you would have been introduced to in this phase. The biggest 2 are the project brief and the business case. The business case is why are we doing this project at all, and the project brief is what are we actually going to do. Now we are using cut down versions given that the time you have, and because this is an agile cycle we're heading towards. We don't need fully spec'd systems specifications yet. We need information about the clients, about the project, about where it came from, and so on. So, we are expecting what is called a professional style business report, which means not something that looks like an assignment, and I'll talk to that in a moment. So it's something that would be appropriate for industry to receive, something that you might expect your business to actually present, not something that has your student numbers on it or a general open page with no information. Within that document, we need the project definition. So what does the project need to achieve? What is it? What are we trying to achieve in this project? The background. What has led the client to request this project? And in project management, you would have learned that projects predominantly come from one of three areas. It's either that something isn't working and it's been identified as a problem that needs to be fixed. Alternatively, it could be something that has arisen that the organisation could take advantage of, therefore making it an opportunity. The third we often find in businesses is where the manager has suddenly had an epiphany and decided project must be done. That is called a directive. Now, the reason I'm getting you to explore that is because that matters to how everybody else in the organisation feels about you doing this project. For example, if it's a problem that's been identified, everybody's going to be on your side to fix it. If it's an opportunity, some people are going to go, oh, can't we just keep the way things are going? Not that into it. So you have to manage that expectation. A directive, the manager loves it, so you've got to do it, and everybody else does not. So you are going to experience project differently once you understand where the initiation has actually come from, and it will change the way that you interact with people in your project. You'll also then prepare deliverables. What will the client receive at the end of the project? What are you physically going to hand over to them? What is your deliverable? What are your objectives in terms of things like time and cost and such? How long is this going to take? What is your time scale? So again, you're putting time-based elements. You would have done used Microsoft Project, for example, done Gantt charts, all of that kind of milestone analysis thing. We're looking at cost. You would have learned about direct and indirect costs when it relates to projects. Direct costs are the ones they actually have to pay for. Indirect costs are things like the time they will spend with you as opposed to spending it with someone else. We want an analysis of that space as well. You would have done a risk analysis before, so you're going to do a risk analysis here as well. And we'll talk about benefits in a little bit. Who are the project stakeholders? In 203 you would have done a stakeholder analysis, and you would have learnt that there are primary and secondary stakeholders, or internal and external. And primaries are the ones that have the most direct and immediate impact on your project. They can make or break it. Secondary ones, or external ones, are the ones who are potentially interested in the project and have some insight towards it, but cannot stop it. So we want you to do a stakeholder analysis, and you've done templates with those before. We expect them to see them here. We want to know about the users. Now, we're going to spend a lot more time in second semester on users, but for now, I want you to explore who are they likely to be. So if you're creating a game, who are the players? What's the target audience there? If you have a research system that you've selected, who is going to be using it? Is it researchers? Do people have technical competence? What are they? So I need you to explore who the potential users are and find out as much as you can now. The benefits to the client. Now, this, in a project management sense, does not mean wouldn't it be nice if, things worked. Benefits actually mean something quite specific in a project management sense, and again, you've learned that in 203. So benefits are objective and they are measurable. So an increase of X by this time, not just somebody's going to be happier if we do the thing. So a benefit is not subjective, it is not vague, it is very pointed, because at the end of project, you're actually going to go back and measure it. So you're setting it up here to measure it later. Quality expectations. Again, this means something very specific in project management. Quality doesn't just mean it looks nice and works good. Quality means objective standards that your build has to abide by. So this might be design standards, health standards, security standards, anything like that. They are objective quality standards, so codes of conduct, that kinds of stuff. So I don't just want general statements about it's quality if it kind of looks good. That's not what we mean. And client acceptance, that's the subjective one. Acceptance is if you hand over to your client and they go, I like that and thank you very much and I'm happy, whatever that is a characteristic of for them, then that's okay. So quality is objective, acceptance is subjective. And that's where you just ask your clients, what will make this okay for you? What will make this acceptable at the end? And they'll go, if it works fast and it's pretty and these things work and I've got a thing and a whatever. That's entirely up to them to choose. But the others are objective. So when you're writing this document, please don't think vague stuff. Go back to 203. Figure out what these meant. If you can't remember, you ask me. Don't just write general stuff, okay? We're following project management methodology here. So once you've put all of that together, that will form the basis of your major first report. And as I said, you'll be expected to reflect on the knowledge and skills from your project management unit, and every member of the team must contribute to that report. Even if you decide you're the programmer lead, you're still writing this report with everybody else. So everybody in the team does everything in some way. Okay, that's the major one. Now, what will happen is on the Thursday of week 3, you will submit that. Now, after I've put you in groups today, I will physically put you, no I won't, I will virtually put you in groups on Milo as well. And so you will be in a group with just your people. Now, that group is an assessment box. So that is a group assignment and that will be dropped into your group Dropbox. So everybody can see it who's in your group, okay? So that's what you do on the Thursday. Oh, and okay, yes, all right, I'll do that now. I forgot what I was doing. Hello. What I want to do very quickly, before we run out of time, is give you some examples about my expectations. So you are transitioning now from students who did assignments to people who are going to be working with clients and in the industry and becoming professionals. And so the expectations of your standard of work is now higher for me than it has been in your other units. I don't want anything that looks like an assignment. I want something that your client or a business would expect to see. Now, a really easy way to understand what a professional style business report is to Google it. And then go images and you'll find a bazillion reports of every industry and every government and every whatever. Have a look to see what makes them look attractive and what makes them look interesting. And there are general structures also on the university library site. If you look up reports or professional style business reports, there are templates there as well. So you can use all of that to guide you. I do not want you to open a blank Word document just to start writing stuff in. There are templates there to help you with that as well. And I also want depth. I don't want just general vague stuff in this report. We want depth and we want as much thorough information as you can put together now. So let's look at a couple of examples. These are 2 previous projects. This is a cover page. Does that look like something a business would find acceptable? They don't know what initiation report means. That's the name of your assignment. That means nothing to them. It has no dates, it has no team name, it has nothing. This one's a little bit better in so much as it's obviously used a Microsoft Word template. You don't have to use this one. Use whatever you want. It's given the actual team, it's given the project name, it's given what this is about, and it's given the team. So even just as a front page, they look substantially different. That is not okay, that is kind of okay, but you can do much better. So in a professional style business report, we would then expect to see a table of contents. Is that acceptable? Why?
No page number.
Okay, no page number. And it has hyperlinks. Not everybody is going to be reading your document online. You can't assume that of people. This one here actually gives some context to the document before it goes anywhere close to table of contents. So it says, this is the process by which the document was created, so on and so forth. So document management comes into this one as well, which is useful for business if you have to give them an update. There's no way they could tell this one from a different one, but you could here because it's got document management. And then these guys put a table of contents together. This one is automatically generated in Microsoft Word. So all of this stuff to make these documents is sitting there for you. You just got to use it. And then you can continually update that as you go. So then we get into kind of content. This one kind of just talks generally about bits and pieces. What you'll notice is there's line break problems, there's line sizes, fonts, styles, all different throughout. This one has actually used headers and headings and styles from Microsoft Word as well, just to make it a little bit more appropriate for a business context. But this one is all text. This one is trying to punctuate that with some interesting graphics to explain concepts. I don't want something that's full text, nor does anybody who ever wants to read your documents. Your client does not want that. The client wants something that's more visually engaging for them. For example, when you talk about something like time, these guys have said it's going to take approximately or roughly 7 to 8 months. How useful is that to anybody? Not really. So what we want is an actual specification breakdown with milestones. Like I said, you've got Microsoft Project in the labs. You can use any free version of such a thing to incorporate bits and pieces. So what I want to show you in just showing you these very briefly is think more about the depth of the content and who you're presenting it to. You're presenting it to the client, who invariably isn't going to know the same amount of technology that you have, but they have a different level of expectation about presentation and the stuff that they know. Make it appropriate to their needs. This here, don't worry about reading it, this here is available on Milo, and it is the marking sheet. It is going to clearly show you the things that should be included, which are these little guys over here, and how I'm going to mark it. HD is pretty easy to get. If you are clear, you are concise, you are comprehensive, and your report is engaging. Okay? If it is vague and general and messy and incomplete, you're going to be way down this area. For third years who have done a lot of this kind of stuff before, I'd be surprised if you get lower than that. I'd be horrified if you did a little bit, and so should you, because you should be able to do this stuff by now, but it's going to be okay if you don't get it right the first time. Like I said, we're going to talk about it, we're going to fix it, but that's where we're aiming, that or better, for people who want to be professionals next year. All right, so that's the group part. That goes into your group box on the Thursday. What also happens on the Thursday is this, which is your self-assessment. This template is available to you on Milo as well. What you will do is at the top you will say, these are the hours that I spent on these relevant tasks. And they will change based on what cycle we're in. For the moment, I think it's something like, oh, it's actually there, technical development, documentation, and self-directed learning. Those are the things I want you to be working on in the next 3 weeks. And you will say, I did these hours. Then I also want you to say, what did you take a leading role in? Describe it in detail. What did you lead? How did you lead? What came out of that leadership? Followed by, well, what else did you contribute to the project in the last 3 weeks? This is where you are substantiating your activities over this period of time. Then what self-directed learning tasks did you go through? So did you realise that you needed to go back to project management and learn about that again? Or did you realise you needed to start to learn a new programming language? Or did you realise that you had to find out more about CSIRO or whatever it might be? What did you learn? What was your plan? What did you do that is going to help move the project forward? And then it's your own personal review, which is a bit fuzzy here. but it's not on the template, so you'll be pleased. It's basically, did I work hard enough, or did I work to the best of my ability? Did I ask questions when that was appropriate? Did I initiate ideas in meetings? That kind of stuff. You personally will fill this out for yourself. And then what you will do is on that same Thursday, you will drop that into your group Dropbox, therefore making it available to the rest of your team. So this is where your team gets to review it over the next day and contemplate what you've been saying and find areas that might help you improve. Because on the Friday, the next day, so this is Thursday as well as the big one, on the Friday, individually and privately, every one of you will fill out one of these. And that comes to me and me alone. And so there is an individual Dropbox for this assignment as well. And that is where you put the peer review. Don't put it into the group box because everybody else will be able to see it. Put it in the one to me. That's why it's on a Thursday, to separate it by a day so you don't get confused. Okay? Now in this one, what you'll be doing is up the top, you'll put each team member's name, and then you'll say, do you generally agree with their own self-assessment? And you can say, yep, or you can say, oh, it's kind of all right, or you can say, absolutely not. And then you describe your response to that. And then you have a set of criteria for each member. Did they arrive on time? Did they initiate ideas? Did they come with a positive attitude? So on and so forth. So that template you personally fill out as it relates to your team members, and you submit it to me as an individual allocation. Does that make sense? Okay. And in doing so, both their self-assessment and your peer assessment and my observations and feedback from your client is what gives an individual a self and peer mark. So you actively get to contribute to other people's marks. That said, however, not directly, through me. It does not matter if you don't get best high scores all the time. It's okay not to be okay at something to start with. So if you say, if somebody gives you a 3 out of 4, you don't fail. If I find a lot of people are giving you a 1 out of 4, that's the problem we're going to have a chat about, and I'll expect to see improvement next time. But being perfect all the time is ridiculous. You cannot do it. It's not possible. Life gets in the way. You've got a million other things to do. So don't be freaked out. If you don't even think you've been getting yourself 4s, you can be honest, and we can talk about strategies. What I want is a true and accurate reflection. If you have a conflict with somebody in your team and they give you a terrible result, it means nothing, unless everybody else in the team does that as well. I'm looking for trends and patterns, not personalities and conflicts. If they happen, I will manage them. So you will not be adversely impacted by somebody who just doesn't get you. But you will be if consistently you aren't being a good member of team for everybody else. Does anybody have any questions about that? Nope? All right. You've never done this before, right? Has anybody ever actually worked in a project? Very few of you, 2 or 3. Okay. So for the majority of you, this is brand new. I don't expect you to go from never done it to amazing at it overnight. That just doesn't happen. So what I expect, however, is that you come and ask questions. That's what this is about. You find out what you need to know. And one way to do that is come to my consultation, but another way to do that is through document feedback. I allow every single team to bring me a finalised draft before submission. And we will work through it and I'll go, you forgot a thing, or that doesn't make sense, or fix that, or remove that, or gosh, that's weird looking. You have time then to go and fix it before submission. If I don't see it before submission, there's literally nothing I can do to help you. It is becoming an accessible item and it's marked as is. But if you've seen me the week or a few days before and you've got some feedback, then you can go and do something about it. And because you've never done that before, I would absolutely request that you do that. I would be horrified that you are about to risk 25% of your assignment by not just getting initial feedback. That's not smart. Okay? I won't, because I have you guys and China guys and Launceston guys, I will not be doing this the day before the assignment is due. It's just not time. So you need to put into your own planning schedule when Christy gets a draft and when you go and see Christy to get feedback on said draft. Okay, so that's where you make an appointment or you come to my consultation time the week before it's due to give you time to fix things. Go ahead.
What are your consultation times again?
My consultation times are on Wednesdays 1:30 to 3. So this is due on the Thursday, so you want to come and see me the week before. That what time should be. If you do it on that Wednesday, there's literally no time for you to fix stuff. So be smart about when you do it, and I can't keep looking at it over and over again. So the rules are your team has to have looked at it, has to be at least 80% done, the team has given all the feedback that they come, then it comes to me. I don't want to see a bit or a paragraph or a page or one person's section. Show me the whole thing, that's how I get context. Okay? All right, nearly done. Whew. Guys, hanging in there. All right, what do we do now? Oh God, how do we start? All right. Tonight, you will get an email from me. And that email will tell you the project that you got allocated to, and it will tell you who your team members are. After that point, it is over to you. What you will do is you will then swap, you will contact the other team members and you will swap contact details. Not everybody wants to be interacted through email, so you might choose Discord or you might choose something else. I don't care what it is, it's up to you, how best works for your team. So find out whether you just want to do things through Google Docs, whether you want to chat, whatever. Figure that out. But it has to be something that every member of your team has access to. And then your personal responsibility is to continually check it. Okay, so don't just go, oh yeah, I'm on Discord, and you never go there for 3 weeks. Do something that will help you stay in communication. What I want you to do by Friday is to identify your preliminary team roles. Now, this does not mean this is the position you're stuck with forever. It's what you think right now you'll probably take a lead on. And then we can change if we need to. But I need to know that because I need to know who your project manager is, because that project manager will then email me by Friday and say, these are my team roles. And what I will do is send them a corresponding email back and say, tell me which time on next Wednesday is your management meeting going to be. So I will do a lot of administrative communication with your project manager. So I need to know who that is. I also need to know who your client liaison is, because that is important to your client. And that is the person that needs to start moving very actively on saying, hi, we're your team. Thanks very much for offering your project. When would be a great time for us to come and have our first meeting? So you are going to make it, the client liaison is going to make initial contacts, and then you are going to plan and then conduct your first meeting. And given that your assignment is due in week 3, your mass amount of data collection, analysis and write-up starts very, very soon indeed. So what you're going to do is think about what is the best way to conduct this meeting? What information do we need to collect in this meeting? Who should come to this meeting? What mechanism are we using to record the information in the meeting? That kind of stuff. So I want you to go there and I want you to introduce the team and your roles. I want you to explain the milestones and the assessment to the client. I want you to talk through it so they clearly understand what you have to do for me in addition to what they want you to do for them. They already know, they have the unit outline, but I want you to have that conversation so together you build up a milestone plan. Then you start to collect information on the actual project, and I've given you the list of what goes in the first assignment. So what specific data needs to be collected, and I don't want you to just go there and read them the list of things. So don't go and say, what are the quality expectations? They won't know. That's a project management term that you know. It's not what they know. So what you will say is, are there any standards that we need to be aware of in your particular context? Are there security things going on here that we need to know about? Does it need to interoperate with some other stuff that you've gone on with? So you can't just take the list that I gave you and give it to them and hope for the best. It won't work. They're not going to know what some of the words mean just because it's not their context and their understanding. So break down the things that I've asked for and then figure out how you will go about questioning people in that business. They're not going to know what stakeholders are necessarily. You have to break that down. Who has the potential to shut this project down? Who do we need to communicate with? Who do we have to collect information from apart from you? That kind of stuff. Decide on the best collection strategy. In project management, you would have been introduced to data collection as a general mechanism for research. You would have heard about documentation analysis. You would have talked about observation. You would have talked about interviewing and surveying and yada yada. Think about your particular context and what is the best way to get as much information as you can. Because going and seeing your client is only one way. You are not going to get the depth of everything that you need just by talking to that one person. So, for example, if you choose the CSIRO one, there are other people who work on the boat, but you're not going to be able to go to the boat necessarily. So how do you get information from them? Figure out from your stakeholder list who do you need to collect information from and talk to your client about the best way, and do that soon. What you also might want to think about, which you don't have to do, but sometimes the data collection form is useful, which is basically you set out a blank template before you go, and it has fields and such for all of the specific things that you need to collect. It's a really great visual mechanism to go in with while some of you are talking and the others are basically filling that out. It's visual in so much as it helps you figure out if you've left without knowing a section of stuff. So maybe that's a useful tool to start this process with. Once you have done that, what you're also going to do, and there is also a Dropbox on Milo for it, is minutes of meetings. This is me and you and your client communicating about what you have decided on and what you've agreed on and what your work schedule is going to be. So every time you have a team meeting, not an online general chat, but every week you need to have a face-to-face meeting. At the end of that, you write up those minutes and you drop it in that box. And every time you have a client meeting, you write that up and you give that to your client and you drop it into the box as well. So every single week I will know what you're meant to be working on, and when we go into management meetings and things are behind, we'll talk about why. Okay? So that's what you need to do, and then of course you need to develop your own individual learning plan, which will be reflected on your self-review. Once you get your project, you'll already freak out and you'll go, God, I don't know enough about blah. So okay, in the next 3 weeks I'm going to learn about the thing. How am I going to learn? What does learning mean? What do I need to know by that period of time? That is your next steps. Do you have any questions? Go ahead.
As far as communicating with the clients go,
Yep.
Are we grabbing their details off of you?
Yeah, so tonight when you get your email, there'll be a little table in it and it will say your project name, your client details and their contact details. Then basically what you got on that specification, and I will correspondingly send an email to them with your details, but it is your responsibility to make first contact with them. Cool? Any questions? Yeah?
Can team members have multiple roles?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you'll all be working on the same kind of stuff, but depending on the number and your expertise area, it's okay to have leadership roles across a number of them. And similarly, in some areas we can have co-leads if it's a big area like programming. But remember, a lead is not the only person, it's just the person who coordinates the activity. But yes, you can have multiples. Any other questions? You all freaking out?
Yep.
Mission accomplished. All right, so basically we are done for today. Like I said, I need to have that form from you now. New people will come into this building in this room in 5 minutes, so please finish that off, bring that to me before you head out. Thank you so much, I'll see you soon. I do not. Thank you very much.